When I was a child, I loved origin stories. I loved them because I always saw so much potential in beginnings. I had a very literal mind as a child, so you had to actually tell me it was a metaphor in advance. But I loved origin stories because I loved good storytelling. It was the best way that I knew to actually process moral lessons and integrate them. But I think the biggest reason why I loved stories so much was because I knew an incredible storyteller. His name was John Jones, and he was my art teacher. And as we painted, he would always be telling us these fantastical origin stories. His captivating Australian accent didn't hurt either. But the one that always stood out to me was a story about a group of animals who come face to face with an endless night after a blanket of darkness envelops the sky. The sun leaves them, and they don't know how to get the darkness away. Two birds, an eagle and a hawk, declare themselves champions and say they can defeat the mighty darkness and bring back the sun. Each of them talks up their skills, eats a huge meal, sleeps for 3 days, and then twirls into the sky, doing beautiful, extravagant dances all along the way. But both of them grow tired, and their wings stop working, and they fall back to earth, humiliated. After months of darkness, finally, a baby hummingbird says, "I am not a champion, but I do think I can help." All the other animals laugh at him, pointing to the failure of the birds who were larger and stronger. But Hummingbird simply turns away and bolts straight up, soaring into the sky. No twirls, just determination. Until finally he reaches the darkness, and he stabs the darkness with his beak. Over and over and over, he stabs the darkness, creating tiny holes of light. And with the final burst of energy, he stabs through the darkness so hard that his entire body goes through, creating a giant hole in the darkness. And the gods and goddesses were so moved by Hummingbird's courage and persistence that they returned daytime for half the day and the beautiful night sky that Hummingbird had created for the other half. Now, if I'm being honest, my favorite part about the story when I was 8 was that a short and unassuming bird was the hero. That appealed to me for some reason. I can't think why. But that little bird's perseverance was never lost on me. He didn't waste his time with bluster. He just believed he had something to give and went to work. He had a clear mission to bring whatever small amount of light into the world that he could. And when I think back on this story, I know exactly why John chose it. Because he was a hummingbird too. It was 1992 in Greenwich Village, New York City, and John had AIDS. He was always so matter-of-fact about it with us. He was sick, but as long as he had the energy, he was going to keep bringing beautiful art into the world. And he was going to lift the spirits of children through his teaching. But John wasn't just an art teacher. He was also a member of the LGBTQIA+ community being ravaged by the AIDS epidemic. So he came up with a way to make a difference in both of his worlds. He formed a partnership with an organization called God's Love We Deliver, which at the time delivered meals to people bedridden in the final stages of the AIDS virus. And the meals were delivered in these painfully sterile-looking bags. So every year, he would have children decorate the bags for the holidays so that the people who were seeking an acknowledgement of their worth and dignity would get that reminder from children that they deserved light and love. It started with just 36 bags. Today, the kids make over 1,000 bags every year. To this day, when I think about what ministry out in the world looks like, I think of John. Because John had the clearest sense of mission to brighten the lives of all the children he taught and the lives of people dying from the same disease that he himself had contracted. I wish he had lived to see how many lives his mission and vision truly changed. But sadly, he did succumb to the AIDS virus in 1996. But his ministry always stayed with me because he wanted each and every child he taught to be that hummingbird too. And I think that's why I find ministry in beloved communities like UUCiL to be so moving. Because in communities of love and support, we have the opportunity to be a whole flock of hummingbirds if we can help each other focus. The children's story that I read, The Everything Seed, I love it. It isn't exactly an accurate retelling of the Big Bang, but as a metaphor for beginnings and potential, I think it's beautiful and I think it works. Because beginnings are exciting. We are living our very own origin story. We have a seed that will blossom into something we can't even imagine yet. It is fun to imagine where we'll be in 5 or 10 years. It is fun to think about all of the creative new ministries we could be involved in. And I know that I've been having a blast talking ideas with some of you, because it's hard for me not to think about how we are planting the seeds to a beloved co-ministry right now that will blossom someday into something extraordinary. But I also remember that staying solely in the visioning is also living in the bluster that doomed hawk and eagle. Visioning is incredibly important, but it needs to be guided by mission and covenant. Many of you have probably heard me talking about vision, mission, and covenant, because I think it's a wonderful and concrete way to begin a ministry together. We don't currently have a vision statement, and that's one reason why I asked you to do some of that visioning work. But we do have a mission statement and a covenant, and they are beautiful. They inspire me. They seek to tell the story of who we are and what we value. And they don't necessarily have the focus of answering what our primary hope, purpose, and promise really is. But I see that focus as so tangibly within reach. Because when I first started pre-candidating with the search committee and then candidating last April, I fell in love with this congregation. What I love about UUCiL is how we kept the care and compassion, the genuine sense of community from our history as a fellowship, while asking, how can we carry that love outward? And when we look at our covenant, in essence, it is about embodying faith. that faith at UUCiL isn't a belief system, or a thought experiment, or a social club. Faith at UUCiL is about letting love permeate every aspect of who we are and figuring out how we answer the question of what embodying love looks like here. Every step of the way, I have experienced that sense of love at UUCiL. A week ago, I briefly went up to Camp Shelley to spend time with some of you in what I know is a sacred tradition. It is beautiful. And there was an experience that I had that went completely unremarked upon, but that I very much noticed. After I had left Lake Angora and drove back to camp, I parked my car when I saw a few of the members there, and we sat down at the table chatting. One by one, more people joined in the conversation, and as different people returned from the lake, instead of splintering off into different conversations, the circle simply kept getting larger. We added chairs, cookies appeared, and even when those that were not well known by the community joined in, the circle just got bigger and the conversation more inclusive. And in this setting, people shared both hilarious fending off bear stories and the more intimate stories of struggles we go through and where we are now. That, my friends, is fellowship. That is love embodied. No amount of visioning can make a community want to welcome others and live that sense of love. That is entirely innate to UUCiL. That is why I'm here. Because every person I have met here has a seed of love that is already blossoming, and the most beautiful desire to nurture each other into their best selves. We just need to figure out where to channel that love. And that answer won't come from me. It will come from you. My vision is that we know exactly what our mission is. My mission is to grow this community in embodied love and facilitate an understanding of what that looks like. And my covenant is to care for you throughout the process, to hold your visions in my heart and help them come to fruition. Susan Frederick Gray, the president of the UUA, spoke at last year's General Assembly about the power of us. And she is absolutely right. We can accomplish so much together. There's a reason why our current mission statement has that key word in there. It's not just about growing in spirit, reason, fellowship, and justice. It's about doing it together. Because there is nothing more powerful than a beloved community who has set their mind to be the change, to be the voice, and to be the light in this world. And we can be the change. We can lift up voices of those who aren't heard. And we can bring light into the darkness. Because this flock of hummingbirds has a seed to plant. I don't know what it will be or what it will look like. But I am truly humbled and privileged that I get to plant it with you and see what we blossom into. So friends, let's go break through that night sky. Blessed be, and amen.